Welcome to the Leftover Rewatch. We're all here, and we have a special guest. Ro is here, and she's openly admitted this is the worst episode of The Leftovers she's ever watched, and hates it. Right? Did I get that correct?
You got it almost correct. It's one of the best episodes of The Leftovers ever, but not my favorite of season 2. So you were really close, Jack.
Oh, that's what you said. I always thought you said you just hated it.
No, that was just
I love the episode. Yes, I love the episode, just not necessarily as much as other episodes in the best season of television I have ever watched. So there's that.
Guess what? I agree with Ro 100%. It is not my favorite episode of season 2.
Really?
What?
I'm totally shocked.
I'm totally shocked too.
I'm going to say it's my favorite episode of the series.
Nice.
Because I think it allowed them to be creative. I mean, if you're a writer and you're part of a show like this, to just be able to go, all right, we're just going to go wild with this episode. Okay, I can imagine being in the writer's room going, yeah, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this. And the end with, well, we'll get to it when we get to it. But I just thought it was just fantastic. I
agree with what you say, but the way that you phrased it, saying it allowed them to be creative, as if the rest of the season isn't creative. No,
the whole show is really creative, but I'm saying it allowed them to go outside they could just do whatever they wanted to do.
Yep.
Because they were telling a story that, who knows, that, they're in this hotel and everything's going on. And just like the first time I watched, well, do you guys want to get into it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. We have Kevin emerges from a bathtub.
Mm-hmm.
He's freaking out. But I got one question, because you see Kevin's pretty toned, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's not an ounce of fat on him. He's pretty ripped. Do we ever see Kevin working out?
We see him jogging.
A lot.
Of course, we see him jogging.
You don't, but you don't get that tone from jogging. I see a lot of joggers, and no.
Well, Jack, I mean, as somebody it's a well-known fact that you were the body double in
the
bathtub scene, and you worked out. So we should just assume that, like, before his jogs, that he probably has like a weight set, and most importantly, an ab bench, right?
Did you guys see Lego Batman where he's like, I got 9 abs? He has an extra ab. Like, this is like the human equivalent of that.
Yeah, he's But I go, God, he's ripped. I go, but we never see Kevin working out other than run. And we haven't seen him run in a while, have we?
No.
We don't know how much he runs while he's sleepwalking.
He's running in other ways. Maybe not physically.
Well, then we realize he's in like a hotel room, right? Because pretty obvious. Then the TV comes on and then goes off, making a high-pitched noise. Then he opens up the closet and he has a choice of outfits. There's the Mapleton police officer outfit, right? And there's the international assassin. There was 3 things.
Priest.
There. A priest, right?
And there's a guilty remnant outfit in there too.
Okay.
I didn't catch that. Nice.
I didn't either.
Either.
So, Ro, at this point, you hate the episode. So, what do you think about this so far?
Well, at this point, I love the episode because Kevin got out of the tub, but that's another story.
Yeah. So, how's that not the best? How's that not the best episode of the series?
It's one of the best episodes of the series. In retrospect, just to like pull it all together, when I watched this live, which is the only time I ever watched it because this is my first rewatch of the show, I was more interested in the stories of all the people, not just Kevin's. And this being more like a bottle episode, it didn't give me as much of a sense of what was happening for everyone. But now upon rewatching, of course, I appreciate the performances and the story as much as I ever did. It's just that at the time when I watched this originally, I just wanted to know more about what was happening for everyone, not just Kevin. But this is a fabulous episode and the performances are great. And in hook, line, and sinker, I just prefer the deeper stories a little bit more.
Okay.
And I think Ro touches on something really important, which is, and we noticed this in the first season in our rewatch, how, when we remember the first time we watched this, we were all trying to understand what was going on, right?
Right.
And so we everything was, I wouldn't say superficial, but we're trying to make sense of all these things, right? But as we rewatch it, we really focus on the details. And I mean, what you said, Jack, in terms of you can sense the writers going wild. This episode is obviously as Kevin-centric as it gets, right? He's in every single scene, right, Ethan?
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And
So-
and it only breaks away from his POV one time.
Yeah.
Yep. So,
But you find it strange that he doesn't take the cop uniform.
yeah, I mean, yeah, like at this point, like we just, I remember like literally where I was. I think I said this exact same thing when I talked about this before. It's like I was in this room, the furniture was around. I remember where my butt was in the seat when this was on, because he had just taken that poison. Virgil shot himself. I told my wife we're not watching The Walking Dead first ever again. We have to see what happens. And I sat there, and this whole episode kind of washed over me. Like I didn't know what I was seeing. I didn't know what was going on. I just knew that we were getting to stuff that I really love about TV.
Yeah.
Like Lost kind of at its best.
Mhm.
And, it'll connect to why I think I like another episode a little bit better. But I mean, this whole thing is brilliant. He just from that first water on the tub, you just don't know what's going on. You're along for this ride. And if you're so far along in this episode in the season of Leftovers and you're still liking it, you just have to let go. Right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And watch it 18 times later over the next couple of years, and we'll talk about it on the internet.
So I have a question for Caleb.
Yes.
When you were watching this the first time and he emerged, did any part of you think that this might be that this might be his reality and everything else was imagined?
Oh, I was just in love, so I don't know.
Well, that's like a big question at the time, right? Like, is this actually happening, or is this in Kevin's mind? Right.
Right, or was everything up to this point in time in Kevin's mind? And
Because
now
we know Kevin has issues there, right?
Yeah.
So,
And they've been hammering that, all season. Where is my mind? Where is my mind? So I guess we're gonna find out.
Well, this is one
Honestly,
of the bigger things.
Sorry, just to answer your question, I just didn't really have a clue, so I didn't know where they were going. So, yeah,
go ahead, Ro.
yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm still upon rewatch, and I watched this episode 4 times so I could be prepared for tonight.
Wow.
I've got 7 pages of notes right next to me and everything
Tell
else.
the truth. You just watched the bathtub scene for us.
No, that one I watched 20 times. But I'm still not 100% convinced that Patty was a hallucination. And I know that that's a big question for a lot of people. And I think, that was one of the things that actually made me love this episode, is that I feel like it's more of a statement as maybe she really wasn't a hallucination. So I know we'll get into that.
Well, he picks the cool suit, which I probably would have done too.
No one's gonna convince me that those aren't Justin Theroux's boots, that he doesn't own those. Those are his boots.
Randy says, give Ro 50 points now.
Yeah.
There's a knock at the door. Bellhop brings flowers for Mr. Harvey. He's going to get him a tip. He pulls out, he goes, yeah, I have these zeros, this huge amount of cash. And so then the guy tries to stab him. There's a fight, breaks out, and Kevin kills him. Right?
Yeah, I had this one thought starting here. It's like the guy says flowers for Mr. Harvey. Kevin says Garvey.
Yeah.
And the guy corrects him and says Harvey. No, Harvey. And this episode is so good at Kevin saying what I'm thinking at the exact same time I'm thinking it.
Yeah, I noticed that.
This happened a lot in this episode. It happens more than once, especially if you're into The Godfather, right? And the great thing about these Kevin Garvey episodes like this is his whole, this is stupid. I don't believe what's happening here. I love that attitude in the whole episode.
Mm-hmm.
So just to clarify, you're saying that a lot of Kevin's dialogue is just him vocalizing his thoughts in terms of like the thoughts that also mirror what the viewers is experiencing?
I think so.
Interesting.
Because he's like us. He does. Everyone else seems to know what's going on.
Right.
Kevin. Kevin is like going, some crazy guy poisoned me, and I'm trying to get rid of Patty and all that different stuff.
Right.
Mm-hmm. It'll happen again.
But he has cut his hand, and that comes into play later on. He opens the elevator. He tries to open the elevator, but the fire alarm goes off, and you always should take the stairs when the fire alarm goes off.
And when he's putting his wrapping his hand, that's when the music starts too.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Verdi's what is it? The chorus of the Hebrew slaves, which I know all about. I know all about that.
So can you explain it?
It's a piece of music.
but I noticed it in the first viewing. Just obviously it sounds like it almost sounds like an overture, right? Like an operatic overture. And obviously, from that period of classical music, the bel canto. But they employ it so wonderfully throughout the whole episode. To really probably emphasize what you were saying, Ethan, in terms of the way that it's not just, we and Kevin are kind of in sync in terms of like trying to make sense of something that makes no sense, right?
Yeah, and they're throwing it all at you at once because you have the music going at the same time. He gets in the elevator, the fire alarm starts going off, and it makes you almost as disoriented as him.
And I would even add one more thing. The first few chords of that piece almost sound like, I believe, the overture of the Marriage of Figaro. And so, for me at least, when I hear those few chords and those string instruments, it almost has like a semi-comedic effect. Do you feel that too, Ethan?
Oh, for sure, because it's like as it goes on and we run into that theme again in this world at later dates, it comes up and you roll your eyes. You're like, oh, here we go again.
Right. It's like it signals a sense of absurdity, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is where I'm going to push back.
Against who?
Eckhart. Well, both of y'all, really, or whoever's against me. By the time I get through saying what I'm saying. My biggest complaint with this episode, honestly, is the score. I think it works in terms of the absurdity that you mentioned, Eckhart, but I think it's too damn loud, basically. It takes me out of it so badly because I feel like the audio is not mixed correctly. It's just so loud to me. And I know that they're like doing this on purpose, and I love the ending with Max Richter, and I'm really missing him this episode, and I understand why they made things different and then have had the heavy hitter score at the end. But it's just really, it's hard to listen to, and on top of that, when you have the beeping from the hotel, the alarm going off, and just the entire episode, it becomes a lot, and I find it rather annoying. So that's my biggest complaint about this episode, and that's really all negative I have to say about it. But I wanted to throw that out there because you mentioned the music.
So what do you think, bro?
Well, I think the music is disconcerting intentionally, and while it is loud, I think, and Caleb kind of said it. He knows why they did it. But I can understand how it annoys you, Caleb. But for me, I think that disconcerting nature of the music is what actually kept me engaged, because I was like, oh, wait, what's happening now? What's happening now? And what's he going to do? And, is he going to get in the elevator? Is he going to take the stairs? And, what is the music signifying what's coming next? So I like that they used it, even though I kept playing around with my volume up and down on my computer.
Yeah, and I think it's just more difficult on rewatch when this is kind of a break from the plot a little bit. Like you said, the lack of other characters in the episode. So when you have that, and then, I don't know what my point was about that, but just that the music was too damn loud.
I do take issue with this break from the plot stuff because the lead character drank poison and died.
Yeah.
Well, I'm saying on rewatch, I know what's going to happen. I don't question what he's choosing out of the closet. So the music doesn't mean anything to me. It's just annoying. So that's what I'm just saying. My complaint upon a rewatch is that.
I always thought it was Huey Lewis was in Back to the Future 1. It was you.
Okay.
I'm sorry, that music's just too darn loud.
Yeah, well, that's what I was trying to allude to. Yeah.
Right. Well, you know what they say, Caleb. If it's too loud, you're too old. Anyway.
Right. But I hope you understand, the point I'm trying to make.
I get it. I get it.
Upon rewatch. So.
Okay, we're even now, Caleb.
I get the fire, because if you've ever been in a hotel where the fire alarm goes off, it is annoying. I mean, it's just like, it's just like, it drives you crazy.
Well, yeah. And I've been vocal about my mental health struggles, and I have PTSD. So like that really, really is those loud noises. Just all of a sudden, that's not fine. So I also have that coming from my personal experience too. But anyway.
Yeah, it always reminds me. We used to take the kids to Disneyland every year, and we stayed at this hotel. It was close to Disneyland, about a block away, and every night the alarm would go off. And my youngest daughter, who was like 4 or 5 at the time, I'd open up and she'd run right by me with her jacket on, her slippers. I go, "Where are you going?" You just see everybody at the hotel going, and the doors is watching this little 4-year-old.
Then the music from Verdi played.
Exactly.
And she screamed back at you. I got to get to the well.
Yeah.
Speaking of which,
so when he walks down the stairs, that's when we first see young Patty, right, by the pool. Mm-hmm. Now, do you think that was the reason the fire alarm went off the first time, so he would take the stairs so he would see young Patty? I mean, what else would they have that scene?
I think that the scene is actually what I wrote down for the scene is I think it's kind of beautiful. And it's really trippy and fun. And I love, love, love the coloring of this episode. It really, really makes it different. And I just wanted to say that.
Let's go around the table here. When you first saw this, when did you realize that was Patty?
Because I let it wash over me so much, everything came to me when it was supposed to in the space of the regular narrative. I remember I did listen to the Jay and Jack podcast this week, and I know that I think Jay said that Colleen shouted it out right when she saw the little girl with red hair, and I felt stupid because I should have, but I didn't. When that guy says his name, it all comes from him saying.
Without video evidence, I always said no.
Yeah. I don't believe it. As soon as that guy said he couldn't find a woman to help him with what he needs, that's when I got it. It was Patty.
Okay. Ro?
So diplomatic, Ethan. I love it. Upon initial watch, I think I thought it was Patty when Kevin saves her from the pool. Like, it wasn't that first scene where we just see the girl standing by the pool. It didn't really hit me. But when he does save her, that's when I thought, oh yeah, that's her. And the whole water theme just washes throughout, pun intended, washes throughout the whole episode, from him coming out of the water to her in the pool. So that pretty much grabbed me right away.
Yeah, for me it was right after he saves her when Neil comes. And then it was like I got an inkling. I was like, wait, this is supposed to be Patty. Yeah, this is probably how they're going to do it. Because, they twist things around but still keep things familiar, right? That's how you keep your audience unsettled. And I will also add that the fire alarm thing, I think they were consistent about that, though. That fire alarm goes off after the television always comes on. And it's because if whatever his dad is doing in Australia involves that fire.
Right.
That is then, passing through the ether from one odd reality that inhabits the same space, right?
Yeah. And Caleb?
I'm the same with Eckhart. It was when she was kind of pulled out of the pool and Neil showed up.
I don't.
And he was really abusive with his words.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't even remember. Even today, I was like going, when I was watching, I go, oh, that's right, that's Patty.
I would like to say in my defense for not getting it till the end. This is kind of one of the episodes that got me back to Jay and Jack and how I started watching TV like I do now.
Mm-hmm.
So I wasn't even like watching TV with that eye back then.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully, I think I would have gotten it for.
It's okay. I'm not going to take any points away.
You haven't given me any.
It was a tough one. All right, then for that remark, you're losing 10 points.
Rose up to 60. She just accumulates all the points that we lose.
I do like he goes down to the front desk. There's a bird flying around the hotel, and people are concerned about that. She goes, "No, you need to go over there." And it's Virgil.
Now, this is kind of like, if we're going into like, is this Kevin or is this, actually happening? This kind of is this, I think you guys might have said this or someone else. I've listened to all the podcasts this week. Someone said that this is like the one thing that we don't see Kevin have experience with, why it's in there, the bird.
Right. That's a good
that
point.
Makes sense.
Wait, can you unpack that?
Yeah, there's subconsciously we can attach in this episode everything to something Kevin has heard or seen before.
Mm-hmm.
We have not seen him come in contact with Erica to talk about the bird, or
except we know that he saw all the birds at Virgil's trailer, right?
That is true.
But it would not have this. It would be something so deep in the subconscious and have no attached meaning to it. I agree with you, right?
Yeah.
That's a good observation because the bird does stand out.
Right.
Yeah.
Especially at the end.
And the twist with that, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then Virgil gives Kevin a note, parking garage in 5 minutes. But
Virgil's so perfect in this whole episode.
Yeah.
Yep.
So before he gets to the part, he has to go save the young girl, young Patty, from drowning in the pool. Right? And nobody seems to care. Except Kevin. Then I said, big guy comes out and tells Kevin, mind his fucking business.
Mm-hmm.
Mind your fucking business. I like this actor. He's been in a lot of shows.
He's a real scumbag, dude. Real scumbag in Mad Men, real scumbag in this.
But he played a police officer in, I think, Third Watch.
Third Watch.
Yeah.
Was he a scumbag? Was he a scumbag?
No.
I don't think he was.
That you loved him then.
Yeah.
You know what, Jack? He was so good at this that and he just riled me up with, such detestation towards him that, he qualifies for that group of actors that we've been handpicking out
right
so far in terms of amazing, like just at these small roles.
he's definitely a perfect Neil because was it Ro, you said you don't like him.
No.
Or Ethan said, someone said it. And
detestable.
I'd give points, but I can't remember who it was.
It's easy to get me and Ro confused. I understand.
Yeah, okay.
It's very similar.
Well, I'm older, and someone said it, and I just can't remember. It's been a while. But like Kevin saved her and all that. Kevin's just like, when he goes to the parking garage, it's the 5th level.
Mm-hmm.
Does the sign say 5 minutes?
Yeah, the sign.
I know the note, but when he goes, it says 5, so he's on level 5 garage. Does it say minutes? After I paused, I couldn't. It says 5, and there's little tiny words underneath it. It almost like MINS, abbreviated minutes. But I couldn't tell. I said, I don't know if that's the lost in me where I'm looking for something. I go, huh? I couldn't pick it up.
Did you notice, Jack, how messy that level looked?
It was pretty bad, yeah.
Compared to like the rest of the hotel, which looked impeccable.
Right.
Anybody know what happens in level 5 of the Inferno? Because I didn't look that up. I just figured it out. Because Virgil's leading him through the Inferno.
Oh gosh, I should have known that.
So I'm wondering what level 5 is. Maybe I'll look it up.
Caleb, maybe if we hadn't watched so much OBX these last few days, we would have figured that out.
Okay, I got to answer. It says the river Styx runs through this level of hell, and that's interesting. The river runs through the level of hell, and in it are punished the wrathful and the gloomy. The former are forever lashing out at each other in anger, furious and naked, tearing each other piecemeal with their teeth.
That's a Neil.
I mean, Kevin's
So-
gloomy too.
Yeah, Kevin is gloomy and Neil is wrathful.
The wrathful and sullen are punished. That's interesting about the river because obvious reasons.
Styx is terrible. They're like Journey. Okay.
You got too much time on your hands.
Oh, I'm a hardworking man.
Too much time.
Yeah.
Anyway, the car flashes its light, so I'm thinking this like a Deep Throat type thing because
Totally.
that would happen in Deep Throat.
You know what's interesting about that, Jack? Since you
Yes.
mentioned Deep Throat and All the President's Men, this episode was brought about because they wanted to do something with Kevin like this. Someone in the writer's room said, what if we could do the whole thing like it was the Parallax View?
Nice.
Which is a great movie I saw because of this, is a Warren Beatty movie. And it's just a cacophony of paranoia,
Mhm.
right? And as soon as someone said that, everyone, peeked up in the writer's room, and that's when the ideas started flowing.
Makes
Nice.
a lot of sense. I
There
mean,
we go.
one of the first things that happens in this episode is he almost gets killed.
Right.
But he's Kevin. He's chiseled. There's no way he was going to die there. He gets in. He talks with Virgil.
Yeah, I
And then
mean, it was
Virgil-
like, don't touch his beautiful body. What are you doing?
You can cut his hand, right?
Yeah.
That's- You're okay with that?
Not the face,
Uh,
not the head.
But Virgil asked him, "Did you drink any water?" And Kevin says, "No." Right? No water.
Now, if the water's chlorinated, would that count? I feel like it wouldn't count if it was chlorinated water.
But I do like how they mix in this whole like you said. Now that you said that one of the inspirations is parallax views, that they're throwing in like all these conspiracy theories as well.
Totally.
Fluoride.
Yeah, fluoride. Fluoride.
And that's when Virgil tells him, "You're an international assassin." All right, we can go around the table here again. Would anybody here like to be an international assassin?
Do I get those abs?
Well, you have to work for it. I mean, not all international assassins look the same. You can't be. You have to look different because people go, "Oh, there's a chisel guy. He's an international assassin." Right? So you have to. Everyone has to have. Each assassin has to have a different look.
If I could hang out on a blimp with Christopher Walken and Grace Jones, yeah, I would be. But besides that, I would not be.
Zorin.
You got a view to a kill.
Yeah.
Ro, would you like to be an international assassin?
I'd like the budget of an international assassin, but I wouldn't like the job.
Well, you're
The
killing bad.
toys.
You're killing bad people. It's not like it's.
Yeah, I guess. Maybe. If I had the budget,
Like I was watching
I'd have to
Sopranos.
think about it.
I'm doing a Soprano rewatch, and Tony's argument is, "Hey, we're just soldiers." So, right?
Right.
I got the Sopranos thing for after the episode.
Okay.
All right.
Eckhart.
Nope.
No.
Move on.
No. That one day in the international assassin's life was just way too stressful.
Yeah.
Caleb.
No.
No, music would be too loud for you, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if I could kill people, but it seems like a pretty cool life. I think, right? No, you can come and go as you please. You get to travel around the world. I don't know.
You meet Vanessa Redgrave and they shoot her right in front of you. You became somebody else. All of a sudden you're.
Then we find out. Go ahead.
Then all of a sudden you're with Yaphet Kodo. I could keep going. Let's go.
That's why I stopped you. Anyway, Patty is running for president. Patty.
Yes.
But I could see that because she got Lori to follow her,
Mhm.
so she's pretty good at she has a gift of the gab.
Oh, giving some credit to Lori and her ability to be brainwashed and it being difficult for her.
Everything in this car is so pitch perfect. Like Kevin, like saying, "Excuse me, this is crazy. You're insane." Him telling him, "Stop thinking in straight lines. You have to think in helixes because that's the way she's thinking."
That was amazing. I love that.
Everything.
Well, then
And
I
his
like-
acting was phenomenal.
Yeah. Then you have the Godfather
Yeah.
scene where he tells him how you're going to go in the bathroom. You're going to excuse yourself. You're going to go in the bathroom. You're going to find the gun in the toilet. You're going to come out and you're going to just boom, boom, boom. Don't ask any. Just come out firing. Boom, 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 boom.
And that's another one where it's like, in my mind with Kevin and with Virgil, it's like, did he just talk about The Godfather? Did he just talk about The Godfather? Yeah, just like The Godfather. So it's like this once again. It's
because right away you're thinking, oh, The Godfather.
Yeah.
And then Kevin goes like The Godfather, but then I like Kevin's getting out of the car, and he stops. He goes, "Hey," he asks Virgil, "Why are you here?" Because it's just dead people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Seems to be the case so far. He's atoning.
So, can I jump on this?
Yeah. Just
So, Virgil said he's atoning, and I know, at the end of episode 7, I certainly had a lot of questions. Why did Virgil kill himself? Why did he squirt out the epinephrine? All these big pieces. And upon my initial watch in 2015, I didn't really have an answer for it. But now that I've been thinking more deeply about it, and some of the things I've read, and I'm sure some of you have already thought about this as well, Virgil was atoning, but he wasn't just atoning by killing himself. I think he was atoning by being the guide that Kevin needed.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why he killed himself. And I feel like him saying atoning was such a big, important moment. But I think that's one of the things that Kevin may have missed. How Ethan was saying that Kevin kind of figures everything out along with us. I don't know if Kevin realized how, he knew that Virgil killed himself, but not so much that Virgil killed himself to be there for him until Virgil wasn't there for him anymore.
Yeah, because Kevin probably would Kevin have figured anything out without Virgil being there? Probably not.
No, he was really his guide.
He was, and I was saying to my wife when we watched it last night, because I make her watch it with me one of the times I watch it, and I said during that other scene, which we'll get to, when Virgil says he drank the water, he was so thirsty. I said, I'm really enjoying Kevin's level of understanding about Virgil at this moment.
Mm-hmm.
We'll get to it later. So, I agree.
All right, but then Patty arrives in white cars. She's dressed in white. All her people are dressed in white. So it's like the GR has arrived.
GR Mafia.
And we get to see Gladys.
Yes. Then he goes back to his hotel suite, and the guy's still laying dead on the ground. Right. He didn't call, housekeeping.
I mean, he's got one replacement suit, but the dead guy's still there.
Yeah. But it was clean. It was pressed and cleaned and ready for him. That's service. That's a 5-star hotel.
They won't mention the dead body, but they'll get the suit right.
Exactly.
Right, and they took away the other suits too.
Right. Everything else was gone. And then he let's see. Yeah, everything else gone. But then there's a card there.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And it says get well soon on the outside, but the card is blank inside.
And I would say that I think that card was probably in the flowers that Hitman brought to him.
Right.
But Kevin only noticed it now.
Right.
Yes, sure.
Kevin.
Yeah.
Too busy getting into fights.
And then the TV comes on again, and then the fire alarm goes off again, like you had mentioned earlier, Eckhart. Then the big guy, he's leaving the room, and they ask the big guy, "Hey, fire alarm's coming up." He goes, we burn. Right?
Yeah.
He just doesn't care. We know it's Neil now, but he just didn't care. Kevin just kind of looks. Let's see. Oh, then they're downstairs, and Kevin sees a guy with balloons. He goes, "Oh, those must be for me." Well, you got to be thinking it's his story, right? So
right.
The flowers were for it. So he goes up to, "Are those for me?" And the guy goes, "Are you Mary Jamison?"
Nice.
He goes, "No." Well, then they're not for you.
And if I'm correct, they say it's a boy.
I believe so. Yeah.
I missed that.
Ooh,
Good catch. 5 points.
And the Mylar, that's worth more than 5. The Mylar balloon.
Ain't no mo.
the Mylar balloon in season 1 said,
Right.
It's a girl, right?
Mhm.
Wow. Okay. I got to give you some points for that. I feel bad. I'll give you 20 points.
Wow, so interesting.
Some point inflation going on here.
Well, he did his homework, right? He did his homework, and
He paused it and checked what Amazon Prime says at that point.
okay, let's go around the table.
Credit for what's on the effing balloon, dude.
Let's go.
X-ray doesn't work that way.
Let's stop the whining for a second. Let's go around the table now. When we hear Mary Jamison,
Mhm.
Now everybody here is dead, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is
Kind of.
how is Mary there?
We never saw her face.
No.
No, but we do. Don't we see her in the hallway when they give the gift?
We assume it's her.
We assume it's her. We don't see a face.
Okay, circumstantial evidence.
Ro, you're a big West Wing fan, Ro.
I am.
Is that Donna in the hallway?
It looked like Janelle Maloney, but it could have been Mary Mason. Right? Like,
whoa, she's good.
we don't know.
I think it was Mary. I do think it was Mary, actually. So,
Caleb,
What are we doing?
because everyone there is dead, right? This is a dead world. Why would Mary Jameson be there?
Well, I mean, are you wanting me to answer as if it's my first time, or
No.
what I think? Well, I mean, I guess that depends on if you think Kevin's journey really happened or not.
Right.
So I don't know. I don't know if I should say anything yet.
If it's coming from Kevin's point of view, does he believe Mary to be dead?
Sure. I mean, I believe he. I don't know. I hate to say either way on this one. And
see,
maybe at the end of that,
you might consider Mary gone.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, like I always
That's a
considered everything in this episode not as Kevin being dead, but in some sort of like, you know, what is the Inferno in Dante's Inferno? It's some sort of. It's not actually hell, is it? I thought it's some sort of. It's a place where they decide if you're going to go to heaven or hell, right?
I don't know, man. I'm a Cliff Notes guy. I don't know.
No,
Okay, Caleb, you're our religious expert.
It's not. I'm pretty sure it's just like it's hell, but it's like different layers of like, you know, your own personal hell is whatever.
Okay.
You know, one's like fire, one's water or something.
Okay, and the reason why I say this is because when okay, a little bit of background. When they taught us religion when I was growing up, and I went to a German school, the term that I think loosely translated to Inferno was Fegefeuer. Feuer meaning fire, and Fegefeuer almost means like the fire that you have in your house, like under the chimney, right? Fireplace. Okay. They explained that to us as an interim place where it's being decided if you actually go to heaven or to hell. And the reason why I look at this entire episode from that lens is twofold. Number one, throughout the whole episode, Kevin is faced with the sense that he might die, right?
Right.
That there's some sort of danger, right? And then this whole little vignette, this whole little scene with Mary almost tells me like that it might be possible that she is in some sort of state between life and death, right? And because she is in a vegetative state, right? And so, but as I hear you guys,
not according to Matt,
right? As I hear you guys speak about this, there's almost like two different interpretations, which is one, the one that I just described, which is like some sort of interim state, not quite dead yet, but on the way there. But the other is if this is him just imagining everything in his mind, right? And he's still very much alive, then, he could imagine this is what, this interim state looks like.
Now, did he follow Balloon Guy because he knows Mary? And that's a person he knows. And so he's like going, okay, what is she doing here?
Mm-hmm.
He's got time. He's an international assassin. Let's check this out.
Yeah.
So just for reference, Dante's Inferno is, from what I gathered, all about levels of hell, and like the first level is actually like a purgatory.
Purgatory is the term I'm thinking of. Okay, yeah.
Limbo is actually what it says.
Right.
Which level of hell is the one where you watch people talk about OBX for a weekend?
That's the best level.
Let me get that right.
Twitter DMs. Yes. Level 1.
That's not for you, Ro.
I got banned. I don't have to see it anymore.
Okay.
I was kidding. I'm kidding.
Anyway, but I like where Kevin comes peeking around the the wall. Comes
Yeah,
around
because
the
it's
corner.
real international assassinate with like.
Yeah,
half of
it
his
was
face.
like, oh my god, he could be James Bond. The way they did it was absolutely perfect.
And I don't know if you guys noticed this. This is the first time I ever noticed anything, even though they plan it in your brain. It's the first time I felt like a smart movie watcher person. Is I noticed that all the dissolves were very Godfather-y dissolves. Very like one side will be Michael and the other side will be Vito from Godfather 2. It'll fade in and out. They did a lot of that in this episode.
But then he has a gun put to his head and he's dragged off. He fights with the guys. And who greets him?
Gladys.
That wasn't very enthusiastic.
We saw her earlier, so that's why I said
Yeah,
Gladys.
but I just thought a little more. I'm going to take 10 points away from you, Ethan. I expect a little more enthusiasm. And said,
This is the first time Kevin's, noted. I think he realizes it's her.
But I like that they hook him up to a lie detector,
Mm-hmm.
right? And they go, "What's your name?" He goes, "Kevin Harvey," and then they spray. Is it Windex?
Something like that.
Something that burns, apparently.
I can't imagine having Windex sprayed in my eyes. I think that'd be painful.
And mouth.
Mhm.
Oh, that's right, his mouth too.
Oh.
And then they go on, and then she asks him about smoking, right?
Mhm.
And after he accepts this, gives the right answer, smoking, everything's cool. Why?
Come on, Ethan, come back on. This is your
Ro,
line.
what do you think about that?
About that he gave the right answer at smoking.
Yeah.
Yeah,
First he didn't.
He
He said,
didn't,
"Well,
right.
I'm addicted to nicotine."
Yeah, and I think that was the key for him. As soon as he recognized what they were looking for, is they were looking for him to spout those answers from the guilty remnant and from what he knows of them. I think that was a key for him, so that he could get that red light to stay off. And that helps him later when he talks to Patty as well.
All right. Yeah, because I do like when she finally goes, "Okay, hey, no hard feelings," and she offers him, "Oh, I was being rude. I didn't offer you some water. You want some water?" He goes, "Are you thirsty?" He says, "No." And the red light goes off.
Mhm.
I thought it was funny. Maybe it was only
But I loved how that came up and how he gives that answer, because to me it signified that we moved off the guilty remnant for most of the season.
Yeah.
But it is burrowed so deep in his subconscious, that connection to everything that they dealt with in season 1.
Yeah, they smoked to remember that the world ended.
Mhm.
There was a lot in this episode that brought us to the GR back then. They unhandcuff him. Kevin is back in his room washing his eyes out, and the TV comes on again. And he says, "Go ahead."
No, go ahead.
And he says, "Dad." It's his dad, and his dad's in Perth, Australia, and he's the one that sent the flowers. But he says, "No, you're not an international assassin. It's not in you." Right? He says, "No, you need to push her down a well."
Mm-hmm.
He's like, "What? And I thought this was a great scene. What do you guys think?
It's like one of the best scenes in the episode for sure. Before we get to that final one, I mean, the love in Kevin's voice, talking to Kevin Sr. when he says, "I love you too," is heartbreaking on many levels. But it's also like, I wrote down like what is going on, because this is one of the scenes where you're watching the episode and you're just like, this is bonkers. This is insane. This is crazy. Right. And it's one of the main scenes where you have to realize that even though this is in Kevin's mind, I personally think most of it is. There is some astral plane shamanism thing going on here. And like you were talking about, Eckhart, it rung a big bell when you're talking about the fire, the place where the fire is deciding whether it's going to burn or not. It's like those Bardo videos I shot. I don't know if anyone watched, did a lot of research on this time because it was mentioned in the Sopranos episode where Tony does this kind of thing, which is a big influence on this episode. And Damon Lindelof also talked about the Bardo, which is this Buddhist belief about the in-between.
Yeah.
Life and death.
Yeah.
And so while I think a lot of it is Kevin's mind, there's got to be a little bit of it here that is connected to that.
Ro, any thoughts?
Yeah, I did watch the video and read a little bit about the Bardo as well, this place in between, and as I said earlier in the show, I'm not convinced that Patty is a hallucination. I'm not convinced that this place isn't somewhere and something. And there's a lot of things that happen throughout the episode that make me think that. And one of those things is Kevin and his father, and the whole notion of the two rooms mirroring each other, the hotel mirroring each other, but also that his father tells him to get her to the well. He sent him a get well card, and on the front of the get well card, there's a well, and someone's throwing a coin into the well.
I didn't pick that up.
So all these pieces kind of come together, and I agree with Ethan that this is one of the most important, as well as one of the most, one of the biggest scenes that really draws you in and connects you to everything that Kevin is going through, whether it's in his own mind or whether he's in this otherworldly place in the in-between. Mm-hmm. It's really fascinating. And I don't know if this is going to come up later or not, but in my research and the things that I did the deep dive on, they were also talking about how what broke this episode for Damon and for the other writers in the writers' room was how Raza Aslan said to them that that Kevin is not a prophet, he is a shaman. Mm. And that opens up in this scene as well.
For sure.
Mm. Yes. Nice. Yeah, I didn't even pick up on that. But I did like, it was just a great scene. His dad was on some. I didn't write down what his dad was on.
God's tongue.
Okay, because he was on something. He said, "Son, I'm on it." Then there's a knock at the door. Men in white say, "You can see Patty now." He's like, but as he's walking to go see Patty, I think they're walking through the restaurant or the kitchen area, right? Doesn't the guy in the hood has a Mapleton police outfit on, right?
Yeah.
So because he looks at him. Is that what's his name? Our friend. What's
Lou?
Lou? Is that Lou?
I don't think so.
Did Eckhart or Caleb have anything to say about the scene with Kevin Sr.?
I actually wanted to say something, which is that I agree with everything that was said in terms of the Bardo, and that would have been the term I should have used when I made my comment before. But on this rewatch, I really do notice like the importance of Garvey Sr. to our main Kevin Garvey, and how it almost feels like a lot of Kevin Garvey Jr. slipping this season might have been due to him not having that connection to his father, right?
Right.
Especially given that his father seemed a lot more stable or tougher in the first episode of the season, right? So that the fact that his father is the one that tells him exactly what he needs to do, which is to get to the well, like I think had like a lot of meaning for this entire episode.
Caleb?
In regards to Kevin's dad, I mean, I don't really have much to say about that scene, honestly. I think it's good. I think my thoughts are going to come near the end with this one because I'm trying not to say spoiler things, so it's really difficult for me right now.
Yeah, and it's
know what I mean?
Yeah, and it really does reiterate like this whole.
Because I can't answer you unless I answer if I think that this is all a dream, if I think this is real, if I think he really went through this, if I think any of the beliefs on the show are real. It's just I can't really answer that until the end.
Fair enough. Then he goes in and the guy says, "Make like Jesus." Now I have a funny story. Like my daughter, when she was like 4 or 5, said that to me one time. "Make like Jesus." I said, "What?" And she punched me in the stomach. She thought it was funny. Because I put my arms like this and she punched me in the stomach.
I think it's hilarious.
Yeah, it was pretty funny then too.
He also says congratulations to
he
Kevin
does
when he pats him on his.
This guy's the only one not wearing white though.
Yeah, that jumped out at me as well. Like,
Well, he's he's Secret Service, right?
Yeah, and Holy Wayne's not
Wayne's
wearing
not wearing white. Yeah.
Okay, but he says congratulations, which I thought was pretty funny.
Yes.
Was that
and I have to say that Damon Lindelof has kind of walked all this stuff back and wish he hadn't done that. All these kind of extra jokes at Justin Theroux's expense.
Really?
Yeah.
Was Theroux upset by it?
I think he was made a little uncomfortable by it, especially when it got attention. But
I guess. Okay.
Was this in the beginning with the jogging thing, or did this happen later?
This is what happen? Just Theroux being, he was embarrassed, I think.
You don't have anything to be embarrassed about.
Well, but that
But you're saying that just like all the attention on
on that,
that's awkward.
He likes his privacy, so right. Okay, fair enough. Gladys and Kevin shake hands, hope no hard feelings, all that different stuff. And then Kevin asks to use the restroom. He goes in there, and Holy Wayne is taking a holy shit, right?
And this is where if anyone has told anyone to watch The Leftovers by skipping season 1 and watching season 2, this whole season falls apart like right here.
Yep.
If you haven't seen season 1,
it doesn't matter. You can watch it. It doesn't matter.
No.
Jack, take away points from yourself.
And this is also a reminder how upset I'm still at Mike Bloom for saying that you should watch the Garveys at their best first before every other episode.
So angry. But the guy who plays Wayne here is so great.
Oh, so good.
So good.
He's excellent. And Kevin, well, he goes, I like it. Goes, can I get some privacy, mate?
Yeah.
Which is true. I mean, you're when you're doing that, you want some privacy, right?
And I love how he basically is like, I felt like I've seen you here before, right? It's a direct throwback to his death scene.
And I think it was on the toilet. I was on the toilet when I saw you last.
But the fact that I don't know the actor's name, but the fact that this guy agreed to come back and play this role, and the same with the actress who plays Gladys, must signify that, even though they accepted that their run on the show was over, but they probably jumped at the opportunity just for the cameo, right?
Yeah, sure.
And I was actually surprised when Kevin opened the door to the bathroom and Holy Wayne was there. It was like, you're not thinking about him. You're thinking more Guilty Remnant. You're not thinking of Holy Hugs and all that.
Holy Wayne is stopping him from getting the gun.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because he can't get the gun with him sitting there.
Yeah.
And this, for me, this was the moment where, you guys all know that one of my favorite aspects of Lost was in the final season, the Flash Sideways, because it allowed all these actors to basically play something familiar, but still slightly different. And to me, this is like where some of the Flash Sideways come into play. The whole episode in many ways is a Flash Sideways.
Flash Sideways strike right now. No more talk.
So I was like, oh yeah, I love the fact that these actors are playing it.
I get what you're saying about the Flash Sideways. I get that 100%. I'm not going to go.
Mm-hmm. Well, I almost mentioned it earlier, but I was afraid y'all were going to be like, stop talking Lost. But Ethan was talking about Kevin and how he was asking all the questions that the viewer was asking, and I almost said that was similar to Jack in the in Lost in the final season, asking all these questions and not just the viewers asking them too.
Jack, who was responsible for Juliet dying, right? That Jack.
Oh, there's a lot of blame to go around. You don't want to get me Started on that.
All right, let's move on. Then Patty arrives.
Any thoughts, Ro, on the Holy Wayne and Kevin talking? I didn't write it down because it was a lot of dialogue.
Yeah, no, I loved the scene because I thought that the humor at that point was needed. The tension was so high, and I thought the humor was so high and so deep. Like, that's the kind of thing that viewers like us really like, because it's not just an inside joke that's kind of lowbrow. It's like highbrow. You've really got to get it to get it, and so I loved it.
Okay, but then Patty arrives and.
Can we call her Patty Taylor Greene, please?
Can I actually go back to the Flash Sideways thing? Because that really does fall into why this episode that's why I said
White so awesome, yes.
that's why I said it, takes away from the plot just as an easy way to like. But that's kind of what I'm getting at. Kind of like a little bit like that. That was how I was seeing it as. So upon Lost rewatches, I see The Flash sideways as, okay, I mean, I get it and it's beautiful and great, just like this episode, but like, does that make sense?
But the pushback I have to your pushback is that we get some really important breakthroughs here in terms of the whole Kevin and Patty storylines. In terms of
Oh, sure. I'm saying, but it could have been done a different creative way.
Okay, but
not that it would have been better, but
yeah, I mean, okay, fine. Go sit down and write your fan version of it. I think International Assassin's pretty perfect.
That's not what
I know what you're saying, though. It gives like.
Do I have to pull this car? Do I have to pull this car over? Because
Andal gets to play Patty in an alternate reality. Right, is what you're saying.
Right.
Yeah, different. Yeah. Patty in a different world where she could have, if the Guilty Remnant talked, she could run for something.
But I know that that's not real. That's not the show we're watching, and the characters that we're following.
I just like how she comes in and owns the screen from the time she comes in. Right?
Oh yeah,
totally different character.
She completely takes over.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, in some ways, she's a different character, but she's also an extension of Patty that we see in season 2.
Right.
In terms of the same, like, wit. Like, really evil wit.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I like how she says about assassins. She goes, we sorry about the security, but there's been threats on my life. And she says, assassins are motivated not by money, and not by fame, but they're motivated by belief. So it's like,
the memorable ones anyway.
Yeah, and then I like how Kevin says, "Why'd you donate $50,000?" He goes, because Kevin says because you want to destroy families, and that's what's going on in his world right now. His whole family's been destroyed because he keeps seeing Patty, right?
And she destroyed his family in season 1.
That's true. Yeah, good point. Any other thoughts, anybody, before we move on?
I mean, just her responses for everything.
So good.
Are so good. The way she says Iowa is so good. The way, I don't know.
Are we getting into her conversation? Is that what we're doing?
Yeah, well, that's what her whole conversation with Kevin. Yeah.
Oh, okay. You had just read like the first part, so I didn't know if we were talking about the whole...
I didn't write down everything because.
Oh, okay.
I don't take shorthand.
The Abraham Lincoln comment.
Yeah.
Popped him right in his stovepipe. Love it.
Yeah, when she was like, bang, emancipated from life, I just was like, oh my God.
And the whole crazy thing. Did you know that John Wilkes Booth loved black people? And it's like, what? That's when I came up with Patty Taylor Green.
And she turns to Holy Wayne to do that. And it's like, oh my gosh, Patty.
Right, she gives him like that look, and he responds it perfectly, like with the big eyes that we saw in season 1, just being applied to this, alternate universe.
But I know that Kale's about to get into it. So, but like her speech here encapsulates everything, right? Caleb?
Oh yeah, about the beliefs. Yes, I've said every time everybody in this world is grasping at beliefs. So yeah.
Ro, did you like this speech here?
I mean, which speech are you referring to? Is it the one where she talks about belief and tells the story about the little kid?
Yeah, about the baby.
About the baby that's the father leaves them, and she taught. Yeah, like I actually copied the whole thing down, because to me that was also another piece that was talking about how. This is that you were talking about the alternate version of Patty, also the alternate version of the Guilty Remnant, because she said this is a child who can't have attachments, who can't form attachments, who's like frozen in this moment. We can, and she gets into the whole thing of attachment became extinct on October 14th. You can lose anyone at any time. We can look for signs of life, or we can transform. But my recollection of the guilty remnant is more that they didn't want anybody to forget October 14th. And now here she is saying we should look at October 14th as a way to transform. So that's completely different. That dichotomy to me was very stunning.
Yeah, I picked up on that as well. Like that, I was like, it. In some ways, she's talking about it with the same fervor that she talked in the cabin in Cairo, right? About what the 14th meant. But you're right that like the conclusion was very different.
But isn't that what the Kevin was? The 14th ruined, October 14th ruined his life, right?
It ruined everyone's lives to a degree.
Yeah, but I mean, but Kevin, he couldn't clean the gutters anymore. All that is fun stuff. So,
well, I think it's interesting that it has a callback to the first episode of the season when she says, "Our cave collapsed. Now we can spend," or she says, "Now we can spend all our time digging through the rubble looking for signs of life, or we can transform."
It was
like Ro
shout
mentioned.
out to the first episode, yeah.
But yeah, Ro's absolutely right.
great.
Like in that in some like, and you said it so perfectly. It's diametrically opposite of we smoke to remember, right?
Yeah, like you take the speeches of 108 and 208 and compare them. It's an interesting read.
It's like polar opposites.
Right. I do like she said, "How did you hear about the GR?" And then Kevin brings up Neil, which was one of the no-nos. You're not supposed to do. And she goes, "All right, shoot him." And then Holy Wayne comes out to shoot him. She goes, "I'm just kidding."
If I'm not mistaken, she says, "Wayne, can you shoot this MFer?"
Yeah.
Shoot this MFer in the face.
Yeah.
Oh, but I thought that was funny. But then Kevin excuses himself, just like the Godfather.
When you gotta go, you gotta go.
And he turns on the water. And he's putting the gun together. I didn't think he was going to shoot. I remember when I watched the first time. I go, "Oh, he's not going to shoot. He's going to listen to his dad." Right? Anyone else? When you first watched, I know it's been a while, but did you think he was going to come out shooting?
I had no idea what was going to happen.
Yeah, same.
I honestly remember having no idea what was going to happen. It was like an hour of Christmas morning. Like it was just an hour. I just like didn't know. It's like, yeah.
Your Christmas mornings were that violent?
The good ones.
Okay.
Jewish
My candy cane. Anyway, he comes out, shoots Holy Wayne. She kills Gladys. Where Gladys dies again. And Patty says, no. I'm a body double. I'm a body. And this is
I love this part.
I just want to say that the shot of him going back to shoot Gladys again in the head, like he shoots her once, points the gun at Patty, shoots over there, then goes back. It's a brutal, awesome action shot of him shooting her in the head. And you should watch it again. Anyway.
Well, was in charge of putting, Windex in his mouth and eyes.
She's not great.
She kind of had it coming.
But she's not great.
Isn't Patty, like you were saying, Ro, isn't this the opposite of what Patty would do? Beg for her life? I mean, she killed herself. I mean,
it's a good point. I mean, but she's also, this politician Patty, and this is how I would expect a politician to act when faced with a gun in their face. Oh, I'm sorry, we saw it. Anyway, go ahead.
The thing that jumps out at me here is where Senator Levin pretends to be a body double and then starts speaking in the Massachusetts accent. I think that is the town that she mentions is the place where the actress Ann Dowd is from. We know she's from Massachusetts. So
that's right. That's right.
Like at this point in time, it's like really, what is it like? What's the term? Fourth wall?
Yeah. It's a little because she's not. She says she's from Lowell, yeah, and like she sounds different, and it's like you said, Ethan. Up to this point in time, she was Patty Taylor Green, right? Right.
We've always pointed out that like Patty that talks has a kind of weird, almost Southern accent.
Mhm.
But Aunt Dowd is from Massachusetts, and the Patty's actually from Mapleton, New York. So we're really like getting the entire melange of all of her dialects here in this one scene.
Kevin.
Go ahead, Ro.
I want to get back to a little bit later, but I just want to get back to the whole notion of the body double because I just had an aha moment.
Mhm.
But I'll let you move a little forward in the plot.
Okay. After he leaves, he goes to see Virgil again. Virgil doesn't know who he is, right?
Yeah, and this is the scene I was talking about before.
Because Virgil drank the water, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And didn't he just kill the bird?
And he killed
Yeah.
the bird, and he's
kills
all
the
proud.
bird.
And he tells the whole hotel, "I killed the bird."
I got the bird. There was, oh, thank God. Geez,
Yeah.
that bird's driving us crazy.
Mhm.
And the understanding that comes over Kevin's face when he has to realize that he's on his own now is pretty stunning. I think.
So he gets in the elevator, and there's a crying priest, right? And nothing is said, but the priest crying because the bird died? Was it his bird?
Caleb should know. Why is the priest crying?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
If y'all keep throwing hey, y'all taught me how to use this. I'm gonna keep using it when y'all do this religious talk. Forcing me to talk religion.
You said
Okay,
but you said that's why you wanted to be on this because you were the expert on
You
religion.
need to get a stained glass leftovers picture for that.
No, he has to put the Buddy Jesus picture
Buddy
on whatever that.
Oh my gosh, yes.
But I just thought it was funny. Because there was a priest outfit, right? One of you mentioned there was a priest outfit he could have chose. So that guy chose the wrong one.
No, I get the vibe that there's lots of different people here,
Mhm.
doing lots of different kinds of missions in this Purgatory Bardo
Okay.
situation, and
Mhm.
maybe his isn't turned out so well, and he had to have a cry before he moved on.
Well, the cut on his hand is healed. So there you go. There's that. Then Kevin and Neil are both locked out. I thought there was another fantastic scene. He offers Kevin a drink. Kevin doesn't turn down a drink.
Not of that. He figures it's not water. He can drink it.
All right.
Mhm.
And then Neil goes on to talk about Patty, and we kind of realize what Patty's gone through her whole life. That she's been mistreated her whole life.
Yeah.
And it's kind of sad. I mean, when you think about it.
Yeah, and at this point in time, as he describes all this stuff, and we finally get to, meet Neil, this is where the light went on in my mind in the sense that, like, okay, so this is a Kevin-centric episode, but it really is a Kevin and Patty episode because we're getting all this information about Patty, and we're getting the resolution to all of her struggles here as well.
Mhm.
Find out Neil died. He choked on a piece of chicken. Not a good way to die. But Neil says he should have let the little girl drown. Now, he used different words, and I'm not going to use those words. But he told Kevin, you should have let the little girl drown.
Mhm.
And he goes on to say, the way he's talking about her is just, he probably, he wasn't a very pleasant husband. He wasn't a good husband, right? And Patty didn't have a good father, so she's had a terrible upbringing, which is making it even harder for Kevin to do what he has to do.
Mm-hmm.
And when you go through trauma, what do? What do some people do? They grab onto the beliefs. And what did Patty do, who had been hit with tons and tons of trauma?
Right.
Not to mention her, obviously, mental illness, going to speak with Lori, and then from there on, it's going to be the end of the world. I did it. I proved it right this time, and then full blown cult right there.
Because Kevin knows all this about Patty because Lori told him.
Yep.
Right.
Mhm.
Even about her childhood.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Any other thoughts? Anybody? Ro?
I agree that I just felt completely bad for Patty and understood how she made the journey she made, but also understood how Kevin still felt like he had to do what he had to do.
Right.
And, that, albeit sad, I mean, he was very sad when she died in season 1.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
It made him very upset, and he's such a wonderful performer, and he gave so many great performances in this whole series, but these were definitely some of his best in the cabin and now in this episode as well, especially in the well. But yeah, it's pretty amazing. Going back to what I was saying before about the whole body double thing, when I initially watched this show, I just wasn't sure. Was that a body double? Was the Patty Levin in the office that Kevin killed? Was that a double or was that Patty? And the aha moment I just had before is, oh no, she was literally a body double. Her body was doubled. That was Patty, and the young child is Patty. They had to kill them both.
Both, yeah.
And that's where the helixes come in too, right?
Yeah, the straight line, no straight lines. It's the helixes and the spirals and all those other things that Virgil said. I don't know. I'm sure other people have had that aha moment before, but it just hit me.
And as it goes along, you're getting all these bits and pieces about Neil along the way. So at the end, you finally have that, big moment.
It's like when he kills Neil, Kevin with his next, he kills Neil, or like, good.
Like, yeah, there's no.
I mean, he's already dead, but he kills him again. But
there's no question in his mind that he has to kill this person,
right?
And that we all want to see dead anyway, because obviously he's horrible from the jump.
Well, when he opens the door, little Patty goes, "Hi, Kevin," and then she has a note pinned to her. I need to keep my mouth shut,
right.
Which was probably her dad, her parents told her, her husband had told her over and over again. So maybe that's another reason why she's drawn to the guilty remnant.
There's one other person who tells her to keep her mouth shut, and that's Kevin in the cabin.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
But the moment she walks out, and they tell us this is Patty. This is the moment where I started thinking in terms of and we knew that Kevin said somebody explained that Kevin needed to take her to the well. I mean, his dad told her to take her to the well. This is where I started thinking in terms of, okay, so Virgil was basically a guide for Kevin in the Bordeaux. But this is, and it builds as the rest of the episode builds, that to me, in many ways, this episode was about Kevin guiding Patty to her conclusion. That perhaps the connection here for the through line from Cairo to this is that all this time Patty's been in the Bordeaux and wasn't able to move on.
That's a good point.
And I think one of the last scenes in the episode really confirms that.
I have a question. So, are we under the belief that Patty died thinking? Kevin obviously abused her. I mean, he hit her. He put her in the cabin. We know this. He wasn't aware of it. We know this. But did Patty realize that? Or I guess my question is, I don't remember them having like a specific. I mean, Kevin may have been like, I blacked out or whatever. But do we think Patty believed him? I mean, or was this just another abusive person that she saw in her life? And like you just said, this is his way of atoning for the mistakes he made with her in a way to understand her better.
For the second question, I think you're absolutely right. And I didn't think about it now. And so that sounds great. The first thing is, I think she was kind of a person of empowerment when she killed herself. She was empowered. And so I still think, even upon rewatch,
she was in control.
She was in control, and she was trying to get a big get for the GR at that time. That was Kevin. You know what I mean? She was kind of trying to get him to be GR, I think, a little bit.
Oh, I know. I'm just saying, do we think that she is aware of his sleepwalking problem?
I don't think so.
I don't think.
Okay.
I don't know.
That's what I think too. I think she's chalking that up to another person who abused her, and she's going to make him suffer for it, obviously, and make him remember by doing what she did.
Yeah.
So I just thought y'all may have different thoughts on that. So.
Well, I like how he goes down to see Virgil again. He goes, "Yeah, I need a well. I need a well." And then he says, "Yeah, there's one. Here's a little brochure in a familiar place we all know and love." And I like how Patty walks away. He says, "He's going to throw me in a well." And then Virgil says, "Well, I hope you have your swimsuit on."
I know. At first you think, are they going to let this grown man out of this hotel with this little girl? Because you're still like, what kind of world is going on here? And then when he says, well, have fun, it's just like, okay.
It's awesome.
Well, and then when they're in the car, the actress that played young Patty is fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
I thought she did. It was very convincing.
Absolutely.
And she says, "Do I talk too much?" And Kevin's like, "No." What's Kevin gonna say? And
starting to, yeah,
because he's starting to feel real bad.
Yeah.
As this drive goes on, man.
How could you not?
Yeah.
Especially since he still had the guilt of her dying the first time around.
Right, exactly. And then I like how he stops on the bridge and little Patty says, "Are you scared?" "No, I'm not scared. I'm scared." I thought that was hilarious.
I mean, it's totally Patty.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Totally.
Innocent version, yeah.
And then a guy attacks Kevin, drags him out of the car. They're fighting and puts a rope around Kevin's neck.
Wonderful scene.
I remember watching this first. I go, "What the hell is going on here?"
Yeah. What else are they going to put in this episode?
It is literally driving me crazy.
And it's like literally my second favorite line of dialogue is after he says something about
He gives Kevin a choice: jump or cross.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, but Kevin has said multiple times he wants to live, so we know he's not going to jump, right?
Yeah, but he says, "Why don't you want to jump? Why would I jump?
Mm-hmm.
Like, why would I kill myself? Because you don't want to kill a child." She's not a child. Yeah, she is, and this will change you.
Right.
Yeah.
Forever.
Forever.
And just to confirm, Ethan, this is God, right?
It's the same actor that plays in season 3, and
I'd rather ask Caleb. Is this God?
Yeah.
All right.
Caleb, was that your daddy?
But people made this connection too. That at the first time that I didn't make is like people were guessing that this was this guy David Barton that we'd been hearing about on the radio and everything throughout this whole season.
Mm-hmm.
And guy's a great actor. His name is Bill Camp. Actually, the director of this episode, Craig Zobel, Bill Camp, and Ann Dowd are all from a movie called Compliance. Is where they found him.
Okay.
And he's in that. It's great.
And then Kevin throws the rope off the bridge, says he's going to cross, and then he tells Kevin something.
And that's when we're in Patty's point of view.
Yeah.
Patty sees the whispering happen.
Because young Patty asks, "What did he say?" He goes, "Nothing."
And we never find out what that is, Ethan.
That's not true.
Oh, really?
We do find out exactly what it is.
Oh, okay. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Apologies for yours.
That's a spoiler thing. I'll talk about that.
Negative points, Eckhart.
Deserved.
That's 100.
All right, I'm shooting the moon tonight.
Then Kevin walks Patty, picks her up, walks her to the well.
Mm-hmm.
Patty sits on the well, and this is probably
as reenacted by my Lego leftovers.
Mm-hmm.
Is this? Let's go around the table. Could this be the best scene in the series?
Down in the well might be one of them.
I mean, with this whole sequence, from the well down.
It's majestic. It's great.
Ro?
It's up there. It's certainly top 3.
Eckhart?
Well, that's very good, but I can think of, the dialogues like between Regina King and Nora probably is better. And I would say some of the dialogues that Kevin have with Patty on the humor side are.
But I think, go ahead, Caleb will ask you from a God standpoint.
I'm not going to push back with Eckhart. I'm going to agree that I think that it's a wonderful scene and it's in my top whatever. But I do enjoy the scene. Was it last week with Nora and Erica, the Lynn's conversation? That's just incredible. There's some in the finale that are just beautiful later down the road. So it's hard to say, but like you said, the sequence from the whale and combining that with the bottom of the whale, stunning. It's got to be top 5, probably.
Because
sure.
at this point, Kevin's not. He's pushing a child down the well to gain his pain.
But like that massive shot, them walking to the well, that
Mhm.
massive sky that they had to get at that magic hour.
And
Yeah.
you hear the eagle.
Yeah,
They connect the eagle to the first episode.
yes.
And then when he's done it, and it's that push away that I recreated. You know, when he turns his head.
Is the well in the same place where the cave woman died?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was thinking. Is the eagle? We hear it, and the place looks familiar, and then
Right.
my first thought was there's going to be an earthquake,
Yeah.
which
There kind of is later.
yeah.
Plus, I mean, that's where Evie supposedly disappeared, right?
Right. But to me, what made the scene so special, again, you're going to push a child down the well, and everything that happens, and he's just all emotional about it. And then you hear Patty calling for Kevin to help her. And you're like going, and plus he knows what Patty has gone through her whole life. I mean, it's just like, okay, to make myself better and to help me and my family, I have to push this little girl down a well. Then he goes down, he's climbing down, he falls down the well. And I think another great scene between Patty and Kevin.
Yeah, I would say like this part of the scene where they're both in the well, and it's like there's almost like a sense that both of the characters know this is the last time they'll be speaking, and there's a resolution, and I kind of said this. Maybe I said this last week or 2 weeks ago that I almost felt like as frustrated as Kevin was with Patty in season 2, he also realizes like that he needs her, right?
Right.
And it really is crystallized here in terms of the way that he commiserates with her and then helps her make it past this bardo.
But I forgot to mention the little Patty gives a long list of why she feels she deserves to be pushed.
And it's everything Patty has been saying to herself for years. Probably.
Right.
Yes. So you have this little child saying, "I'm fat. I'm a pig. I deserve it." Absolutely heartbreaking for a child that young.
Her whole life.
Yes. To have such low self-esteem, to have been put down constantly, it's just horrendous. And I feel like this is Kevin ultimately finding Patty's soul and like truly understanding why she is and the way she is and the pain that she's caused his family. I think he's able to ultimately forgive that after understanding her more. So.
And then Patty's, well, the acting here is amazing, but Patty talks about going on Jeopardy and how she needs to win $50,000 so she can leave Neil. She wins $65,300. Does that mean anything? Is that a number that?
No, but $50,000 is the amount that he donated to her campaign.
Oh, good point. Good point. But she didn't. In the end, she didn't leave Neil.
And it's just extra heartbreak on top of that. She had everything she thought she needed that she set aside to be able to do it, and she could.
And despite all the best efforts of her shrink Lori, she couldn't leave Neil.
Yeah. Well, Lori probably gave her crappy advice.
That's what Eckhart was saying, I think.
Yes.
Okay. She didn't leave Neil, and then Kevin drowns her. And I thought it was an amazing scene.
Ro, did you like it? When we're down there in the well.
I like his. It was a great performance. Definitely didn't like it because I didn't like what happened, but I thought the performances of both of them were beautiful. They are gifted actors in so many ways. I did watch the video of the two of them at like the ATX festival or whatever. Yeah, and they were talking about how they each were there for each other during their deaths, which I thought was really beautiful. But one of the other things that I thought was really amazing was how when Patty cuts her neck in season 1 and is dying, she says to Kevin, "Do you understand? You understand?"
Right.
And he didn't then, but now he does.
Yeah.
And he understands, and he still has to kill her or kill her again and again, actually, third time, really. but it was so beautifully done. And when he like hugs her and kisses her, tears.
Yeah. That's why, and I don't know if I realized this, came to this conclusion the first time, but definitely this time around when I watched it, that I really felt like the reason why I say it's a Kevin and Patty episode is that Kevin's actual mission here as international assassin is to help her to move on.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of spelled out pretty straightforward, like Ro just said. Kevin kills her 3 times.
Well, she kills herself the first time.
No, even in here in the Bardo, Kevin kills
because of
Patty
the
3
baby,
times.
right. Because when he throws the kid over.
Yeah, and so but we're so focused on living through Kevin's experience in the Bardo, and trying to connect it to what's happening in the bigger storyline, and just as confused as Kevin, that we don't realize until the end, until we see Kevin put her head under the water, that he realized and we realized why he was there. And that's why that place that he's in begins to collapse.
Right. Well, that's
And
what
it's
happens.
just,
Go ahead.
sorry, it's just really sad because at the end, in this scene, Patty's last thoughts are, I wish I did it differently. She's saying, I had this shot and I did not take it. And it's because of she was so comfortable with the abuse, not comfortable with it, but so used to that, that I feel like
it was her life.
Yeah. And she was afraid to lose it no matter how hard that life was. And to have that as like a last regret that she's vocalizing to him, it's very moving. And it's very sad. Tragic figure.
Yeah. And that's why when I see her win Emmys for other things, I get mad because she should have it for this.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah. But that's life, man.
That's life, man. But yeah, this whole like ride, it was so epic. You've just watched all this stuff. You've gone through all these layers, including what Jack said. You're kind of like worn out from it all. And he sits down next to the well, and then you hear her voice, right? So on top of all that, then you have this final just kick to the gut of emotion, and to have this scene where everything starts to crumble and he climbs up, and then you cut to his grave where he is in Texas, and he rises. It was so epic and amazing and awesome the first time I saw it.
Right.
I was in awe. I still am.
Michael said, holy shit.
Yeah. Before Michael comes and utters those interesting
foul words.
That he had trouble hearing in this church before, just an episode or two ago.
It's in a church.
Did you at any point in time think that he might have not been that he might not have been emerging in Texas, but instead in Cairo, New York?
Oh.
No.
Okay.
No.
But that would have been cool.
That would have been cool.
Patty would have said, wrong place, Kevin.
Kevin.
We got to do this all over again.
Kill me again. So that was the episode. What did everybody? Let's go around the table. What did everyone think about it?
Are we starting with spoilers moving forward now, or
talking
about it as a whole?
Spoiler away.
Yeah.
Spoiler away.
Oh well, I don't want to go first. So.
I'll just say that what we find out later in the analog to this episode in the next season, the guy whispered to him, is, "You're the most powerful man in the world."
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
The only other thing I was going to bring up the interview, which Ro did, and the only other thing I had was this episode premiered on a show called International Assassin, premiered on November 22nd, 2015, which is a weird date to have anything named Assassin premiere in America, as November 22nd was the day JFK was shot.
Yes.
And that's all. That's all spoiler I got.
Ro, your thoughts?
I love the episode now. I loved the episode in 2015. I appreciate it more as I didn't think it moved the story forward as much when I first watched this as I do now. But I never doubted the performances, and I never doubted that it was a great episode of television, but I definitely like it better now. I still like the season as a whole. I still think it's one of the best seasons of television I've ever watched. And I appreciate being able to do this deep dive with all of you, because it did help me fit it into the narrative of the season. But I love all the storylines in the season, like you were talking about before, with Erica and Nora and so many other different pieces. So, and my biggest concern at the end of season 1 was that there wouldn't be any Ann Dowd in season 2, and yet she did some of her best work ever.
Oh, yeah.
So that was pretty amazing.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the big takeaway again is this fact that this is actually the end of the Patty storyline, right? Mm-hmm. And we get the resolution, and I mean, it doesn't resolve all of Kevin's issues, but resolve some of them. But at the same time, it also kicks off what is probably the most important theme for the next season, right? Which is the simple, that last scene of Michael witnessing Kevin rise from the dirt, the way that those birds were rumored to rise from the dirt in Jordan, emphasize that Kevin's special and that this area is special.
Right.
So
don't tell John.
So hypothetically, if somebody were to say, well, I'm losing my mind, y'all. I'm so sorry. Eckhart, I need you to go back and explain what you were just saying.
I'll talk about how the fact that the end of the episode where Kevin rises from his grave, right, sets the tone for the entire season 3.
Right. So, like, hypothetically, if somebody were to say this world or whatever that Kevin's visiting, if somebody were to say, well, that's not real, and just to chalk all this up to his heart condition that he mentions in the finale, what would you say to people who say that?
I say that's an equal possibility to him having been in the Bardo, right? It doesn't really change things for me, right? Sure,
of course, yeah. The storytelling always has an excellent element there, but I just I felt like the show draws kind of like a fine line between going a little bit supernatural. I mean, obviously you have the people who departed, but then everything else is like real. Like, we take people at face value with what they say. They don't have to show us, things like that. And so at the end, with the whole heart condition situation, you're left thinking, well, that kind of explains a lot of the, supposed drownings and things like that. And that's more of a scientific answer on his part. And I think that they do that on purpose. And I don't know, maybe you're waiting till the end of the show to reveal anything you think about that, but I didn't. Those were my thoughts.
It's like, in this case, I don't think it really matters if he actually traveled to the Bardo or he was in some sort of state, like a coma, where he's imagining all this stuff, right?
Right.
The reality is that for him, because if I'm not mistaken, then from here on out, he doesn't see Patty anymore until he does something similar in season 3, right?
Right.
Am I correct, Ethan?
Yes.
So, yeah.
So that whether he went to the Bardo or he was in some sort of a coma and imagined all this stuff, like he was dreaming this stuff up, the outcome is in many ways the same for him, right? But what I really want to get to now, since we're in spoilers, is I want Ro to expand on what she's been teasing all episode about her theory that Patty was always there.
Well, there's just a lot of pieces throughout the season, but certainly throughout this episode, that just make me feel like she wasn't just a hallucination. She was there, and I know, like, she wasn't there when Laurie was around, and she wasn't there. I'm trying to think of another example. Somebody help me out here. She wasn't always there.
She was season 2 Amy.
She was season 2 Amy. There you go.
Yeah.
But to me, it feels like there is not. It's not just his imagination. It's just his imagination. It does feel to me like there is this otherworldly place having nothing to do with the departure. The departure was its own thing, but clearly, like, Virgil did kill himself.
Oh yeah.
And then Virgil was there. Did Kevin know that Virgil killed himself? Kevin didn't know that Virgil killed himself.
Right.
No, that's why I asked him, why are you here?
Right. Like, he didn't know that. So how did that happen if it was all in his mind? And I do get that it's mostly from his point of view, except for that moment that Ethan said when it was from Patty's point of view. But there were other little pieces too, like at the beginning when it says you have to adorn yourself. I don't have the quote in front of me, but you have to adorn yourself as you see yourself. But he didn't know how to see himself. So he picked the suit as opposed to the uniform or the frocks. I don't know what they're called, the priestly garb or the GR. But throughout this episode, we see someone in the Mapleton uniform. We see someone in the priest uniform. We see lots of people in the GR uniform. So people are there choosing their own journey. Why would Kevin be imagining other people choosing their journey? And what I typed earlier in the private chat is something that I read from somebody else's mind, not my own mind. But the woman who's speaking Spanish in the garage, when Kevin first goes to see Virgil, it's like she's on her own mission.
Yeah.
Because then later on, when they're outside, she's out there clearly with like a heart or lungs or a liver in like a transplant container, trying to argue to help someone. So there are other people who are on their journey. So if this is just Kevin's own mind, then why are these other things in there? And I also choose to believe that Patty was not able to transition out of the Bardo. So if she hadn't transitioned out of the Bardo, then this has to be something. That doesn't mean you can't convince me that it was all a hallucination, because I don't remember what happened in season 3. It's been too long since I watched it. But these are the things that I've been playing around with.
Yeah, I mean, I would play off that and say that, like, you could argue that, like, what Kevin was experiencing was the residue, almost like a spiritual residue of Patty.
A little piece of proto-molecule, am I right?
Exactly. Yeah. But I also picked up on what you noticed with the Hispanic woman in terms of moving through there, and again, like, I don't know if there are any clear rules in terms of if the Bardo says that you pass on to death or you can return back to life, right? And what we saw here was we saw Kevin return back to life and Patty pass on to death.
I have a question. Did Neil want Kevin to kill him so he could get away from Patty?
No.
Wow.
Because he doesn't really fight back, right? He's a big guy.
But look how cut Kevin is.
He's cut, but
take him down.
Because he was complaining the whole time. You should have let her drown. You should have done this. Should have done that. This.
Maybe, he probably wanted to be rid of Patty for sure.
That's a good point. Give you some points.
I will do that. I'm gonna give myself 1 point.
So
I also don't think he was only Neil, though. I think he was Neil and her father. I think he was both people.
So everybody that was because
abusive,
he couldn't get away from.
Well, I think
I don't want to say guilt, because I don't think they have guilt, people like that. But
when the
he definitely wanted to get away from Patty.
Part of saying that Neil is part of the abusive people, I think Kevin is in a way there too. And that's symbolized by the car ride when she's saying, "Should I stop talking?" We talked about that.
Exactly.
And he's remembering like how he told her to shut up in the cabin, things like that.
My God, I just thought about this. I mean, okay, so first of all, it's not clear from the series if Patty founded the Guilty Remnant, but we realize that she has a pretty strong emphasis. But I wonder if there's a link between the forced silence and everything that we're hearing here in terms of her saying, "Should I shut up? Should I shut up? Should I shut up?"
I think I always believed it that's how it came about.
Right.
That the silence was, that you just sit there and probably the antagonistic part where they're, maybe she was always blamed for being, it was her fault that she's staring at him or something like that. Maybe that was part of the deal also.
And they kept telling, as she was growing up and going through life, they kept telling her to shut up.
Mm-hmm.
And when she was looking for any kind of words from this Jeopardy asshole, he didn't give her anything.
Right.
He said there's power in that.
There's power in that.
Stan, right? Is that what his name was?
Yeah.
So that's even more of a reason to think that Patty is behind the guilty remnant, or at least some of their practices, such as silence, for her to say there's such power in silence. Mm-hmm. Or just another reason why she joined.
Because we never see it from the start. We see it 3.5 years later.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it could have evolved. But like I said, the part where they get abused and they're supposed to take it, she was always abused and she took it.
Mm-hmm.
Even when, like I said, when she had a chance to leave, she decided to stay and still stay in the abusive relationship.
See, I really like how this episode really digs back into the entire GR.
Yeah.
Because it really does give us like a lot of answers, both about, or reminders of us of like what the GR believes in. And it does allow us to see the very direct link between Patty's, experiences and then how that probably influenced the GR.
And think about it too. Like a biggest complaint about people from season 1 was there's too much GR. People don't want GR. Like these last 3 episodes are wall to wall GR.
Right.
Like wall to wall GR.
So they're gonna hate what's coming.
Yeah. I did have one thing to say. As far as the real, not real business, I bring it back to Dumbledore because David Barton said on the bridge, he said, Dumbledore said to Harry at the train station, just because it's in your mind, what makes it not real?
Right.
Right.
And he says, Kevin says none of this is real. The guy says, friend, this is more real than it's ever been.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, it's also like a matrixy thing to say too.
Sure, but it's also like deep inside his subconscious,
Yeah. And, who's to say? I've done a lot of work with traveling through the inner mind earlier on in my life. And, I believe that stuff is real. So, I'm having my cake and eating it too, but that's kind of the way it goes.
One thing's clear about this episode: it's exhausting in a good way. Both Caleb and I need it.
It moves fast, and it's the fastest moving, almost fastest moving like leftovers episode I think there is.
It is, but isn't it? It feels longer.
Doesn't to me? It feels very quick.
Really?
Yeah, it feels very quick.
Is it actually longer though?
No, I think it's like standard.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's an hour 2 upon my 4 rewatches in 2 days.
So that's like 2 or 3 minutes longer than.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just flows the whole.
I did want to circle back to Mary because you mentioned that people were wearing clothes, and Mary's wearing what would presumably be her same clothes. And we never really see her room other than just standing outside it. And so my question, because I don't know about this and I probably should, but when do you know the sex of a child? Because if Mary is pregnant around the same time and the timeline adds up, this could be a way of her finding out the sex of the baby.
Depends on what test you do.
Depending on when the gender for reveal party is the Bardo, honestly.
Well, do y'all see what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yeah, I do.
Because I know with my my daughter, they said, my oldest daughter, they said it was, I think I see something in the ultrasound. But then when we had to do an amniocentesis, it clearly came back girl. So.
And I'm just wondering I'm just wondering if Mary is in some sort of different type of limbo, obviously, where she doesn't leave her room, things are brought to her, and it's less of an awakening and more of like internally she knows that her.
Isn't that real life? She can't leave her room. She can't.
Right.
She has to have things brought to her. She has to have everything. because she can't in real life.
Right.
She can't do that.
That's why I'm saying there may be like that maternal instinct of, I just know it's a boy or whatever, that this may be a tip off or whatever with the balloons. Just a thought.
I also think Kevin's subconscious is talking to him a little bit in David Barton when he's throwing the nooses over and he's talking about Patty and if she's willing. And he goes, that's just like a woman always trying to change you. And I can kind of hear Kevin when he gets into Nora in his mind, like the negative part of Kevin saying that, like trying to change me.
Is Kevin's mind telling him he wants a boy because he messes Tommy?
That's interesting only because, we mentioned all the other things that are happening in this season, and they take a real backseat here, like for the rest of the season. Like everything gets real backseated almost to the point where in season 3 they have to like course correct because they know they did Nora real dirty this season. You know what I mean?
Well, I'm just saying because the last episode he was so upset to find out that Jill was talking to Tommy, that Lori was hanging out with. He was with Tommy, and Tommy's not giving him the time of day.
Well, if the balloons do represent Tommy and Kevin knows Mary is in a limbo state or whatever you want to call it in this world, then perhaps since he doesn't know himself where Tommy's at, especially with knowing Lori is there trying to find him at that moment, he's probably thinking, who knows what. And so like with those balloons being passed to Mary, somebody else who's in a limbo that they don't really know, he's unsure about because Matt has the story right now. It could be that, if you want to say the balloons represent Tommy.
And here comes this a little annoying Sopranos tidbit. It was, Tony, spoilers. I don't know if anyone has not seen the show.
I'm rewatching it right now.
I haven't.
Well, whatever. Tony gets shot, and he goes into this. He goes into this type situation, right? He goes into this other world where he's like another version of himself for 2 episodes. And in these episodes, and when he has these big test like dream situations, he pulls everything from his subconscious to fill in characters that he doesn't know. Mm-hmm. So people he knows are playing characters in his mind, even though it's not actually them. I think a lot of that, since this episode is they said this episode has a direct line from those episodes of The Sopranos to this. I think you can just pull the fact that Kevin is pulling everything in his conscious and subconscious to build some of this world.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, the Mary feeds into that. Tommy feeds into that. Everything feeds into it.
Yeah, even the Mapleton outfit.
Mapleton. Priest because he knows Matt, maybe.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not uniform in the sense that like, the Mary subconsciousness could be there, but like instead of actually seeing Matt saying hello, Kevin, right? You see somebody who kind of looks like Matt, right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yep.
So why then do you think that they added the bird?
And it's not my original idea. I'm not going to take credit for it. You can't take points away because I'm admitting it up top.
I can do whatever I want.
Jack Swearigan.
Negative 100.
Go get me my peaches and cinnamon.
Swearigan wouldn't put cinnamon out.
Oh God, I forgot where I was going with it.
The bird.
Oh yeah. No, it's for the audience. It's to help the audience along to figure out what Kevin figures out when Virgil kills the bird and Tess says he drinks the water. That's what I think. I think it's a story writing solution.
Okay.
Oh, well, I thought the solution would have been him just saying, or Kevin saying, "Did you drink the water?" Because he just suddenly didn't know anything. You don't think that was enough? You think they added the bird as extra?
Yeah, for the audience. That's what I think.
Okay. I just, like you were talking about pulling things from your subconscious, and earlier you mentioned that was the only one that he wouldn't have, other than from Virgil's home, which you'd think they would have had a ton of birds, or at least more.
Yeah, I mean, piggybacking off that, I thought that Virgil or the Virgil who was no longer connected to the main world. The shows that he's not connected because, like, I don't think Virgil would kill a bird in real life, right?
He'd
No,
molest
I
a
think you're right.
child, but wouldn't kill a bird.
But yeah, I mean, he tends to the birds. He's not gonna just, like, with the flick of his wrist, kill one like that, right?
Right.
He's changed, Jack.
No, we won't go there. But it is interesting that the whole bird in the box with Erica and then coming out of the ground, and then
Yeah.
you have Kevin coming out of the ground at the end, and I'm just like, what's with the bird? There's got to be something else. What is it?
Bird,
Ethan,
what is the
figure
word?
it out.
I initially thought the bird was what was setting off the fire alarm.
So did I.
Oh,
It
good
might have
point.
been.
Same thing.
Did the fire alarm come back after he killed the bird? I don't think it did.
No,
No.
Ooh.
but it wasn't on when the bird flew onto his little podium either.
The bird. We answered all the questions except the bird.
Hmm.
The bird.
Right. All the other questions have been answered definitively.
Yeah, we totally know the answer to everything.
We got it all.
So if you're listening to this, put in the comment section, put your thoughts on what was going on with the bird.
Yes.
And on that, are we done?
Yes, sir.
Yep.
Sorry, I was crazy off this episode.
You were great as
Had
always.
a lot
Caleb.
going on in the
That's
past
fine.
few weeks.
Yeah, no,
Great
you
as
were off.
always.